Merci beaucoup. On va commencer la période de questions pour 20 minutes. CP.
Hi, Morgan Lowry, Canadian Press. In the wake of the resignation of Hockey Canada's CEO and Board of Directors today, I was wondering if you could say what, in your opinion, does Hockey Canada need to do to regain your trust and that of Canadians?
Well, I think seeing the entire board and the CEO step down is an important step forward, but there's a culture to change. There's an awful lot of work to ensure that the structures and systems that Hockey Canada has in place protects employees, protects Canadians, protects our kids as they play hockey. There's work to do to transform the culture at Hockey Canada, but today was an important first step. Je pense que c'est une bonne première étape aujourd'hui, mais nous savons qu'il y a un changement de culture qui doit se faire à Hockey Canada. Il va y avoir beaucoup de travail à faire par l'organisation dans les semaines et les mois à venir pour regagner la confiance des Canadiens, surtout des parents canadiens.
Prochaine question.
Bonjour, Jacques Bissonnet, Radio-Canada. Bonjour, M. Trudeau. À propos de Hockey Canada, justement, les têtes tombent. Est-ce qu'on peut dire qu'il était temps? Ça a pris du temps.
Oui, ça a pris du temps, ça a pris trop de temps, mais je pense que c'est une réflexion qu'il y a une culture à l'intérieur de cette organisation qui ne comprenait pas à quel point c'était grave. Évidemment, c'est une bonne première étape que les hauts placés se retirent, mais ça prend du travail pour transformer la culture, mais aussi regagner la confiance des Canadiens, surtout des parents canadiens.
Maintenant, une question sur l'Ukraine. Vous avez sévèrement dénoncé les Russes actuellement. Il y a le président Zelensky qui s'adresse à la communauté internationale pour demander plus d'aide. Est-ce que d'aide financière, d'aide militaire, j'imagine aussi, est-ce que le Canada peut en faire plus? On en fait beaucoup, mais est-ce qu'on peut en faire plus?
Oui, on peut en faire plus et on va en faire plus. C'est ce que j'ai dit à Volodymyr Zelensky hier quand je lui ai parlé. C'est ce qu'on a répété ce matin dans l'appel qu'on a eu avec lui des dirigeants du G7. On s'est tous mis d'accord qu'effectivement, il faut continuer de le faire. On reconnaît à quel point le courage et la force des Ukrainiens arrivent à repousser l'envahisseur russe pour défendre leur territoire, mais aussi pour défendre les principes de toutes nos démocraties. Alors, de continuer d'être là avec les armes, avec de la formation, avec de l'aide humanitaire, avec de l'aide économique pour pouvoir continuer de faire fonctionner leur pays. C'est un engagement que nous prenons en tant que G7 et qu'en tant qu'amis et alliés de l'Ukraine à travers le monde. Nous allons en faire plus. D'ailleurs, la ministre de la Défense est en Pologne aujourd'hui pour annoncer qu'on fait encore plus de formation militaire en Pologne, comme on en fait au Royaume-Uni pour les soldats ukrainiens.
Merci.
As I told President Zelensky yesterday, as during our G7 leaders call video conference this morning, when we heard directly from him, we reassured him we will continue to do more to support Ukraine militarily, in terms of humanitarian assistance, in terms of sanctions against Russia, in terms of economic and financial assistance to continue to keep the lights on and people paid in Ukraine. We see that this is not just a fight for Ukraine's territory, but it's a fight for the principles and values and rules that underpin all of our democracies. That's why, as a world, we stand with Ukraine against Russia's illegal actions that are causing far-reaching consequences beyond just Ukraine, in a global food crisis, in a global energy crisis, contributing to inflation, contributing to the challenges families are facing all around the globe, including here in Canada. But we know how important it is to stand with Ukraine against Russia, and Canada will continue to.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Mike Armstrong, Global News. It's our first chance to talk to you since Friday when your diversity minister told a parliamentary committee he first became aware of Laith Marouf's anti-Semitic tweets July 19th or 20th. That's more than a month before he took action to cut the program's federal funding. Obviously, you've always said inclusion and diversity are important to your government. How disappointing is it that it took a month to take action?
The opinions expressed by this individual were reprehensible and unacceptable, and the fact that this individual was able to secure government funding through the organization was absolutely wrong. That's why we did take action to not just ensure that the funding was cut off, but that further measures be taken to ensure that funding does not go to anyone who's expressed hateful or unacceptable views as this individual did.
Prochaine question.
Hello, Mr. Prime Minister. Vanessa Lee with CTV. It was officially announced today that you're going to be testifying at the Public Order Emergency Commission. Now that a few months have passed since the protests, are there any regrets on how you handled the convoy?
I think the Commission is going to do extremely important work to lay out the facts for Canadians of these protests, these illegal blockades that happened all across the country last February. It is something that is extremely important that Canadians get to see the decisions made in place, why we made those decisions. It's actually why, from the very beginning, I offered to appear in front of the Commission, because it's important that Canadians know that the use of the Emergencies Act was an option of last resort. And when it was used in a proportionate way, in a time-limited way, and in a measured way to put an end to these protests, these illegal protests, and get Canadians in Ottawa and in places affected by this their lives back. This was not something to be taken lightly, and it's important that there be open commissions to ensure proper accountability, and I am very much looking forward to appearing at that committee.
Prochaine question.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau, Stéphane Blais, la presse canadienne. Je vous amène sur un autre sujet. Dans quelques semaines aura lieu en Tunisie le sommet sur la francophonie. Est-ce que le Canada compte être présent ou est-ce que le Canada pourrait même boycotter l'événement en raison de la situation politique?
Un des principes fondamentaux de la francophonie, c'est l'arrimage des valeurs des pays francophones à travers le monde. Les principes de démocratie, de règles de droit, de respect des droits humains sont au cœur de la francophonie, tout comme cette belle langue française que nous partageons à travers le monde. Et donc, nous sommes en réflexion et en discussion avec d'autres membres de la francophonie pour voir comment nous pouvons continuer de représenter ces valeurs de la francophonie tout en se rassemblant d'une façon importante dans un moment où le monde doit chercher plus d'occasions pour se rassembler. Mais les conversations continuent sur l'enjeu des prochains mois.
Pas de décision prise.
Prochaine question.
Hi, Matthew Dion with Bloomberg News. With the Inflation Reduction Act that has passed recently, do you fear that some investment could get out of Canada because of the incentive in the United States?
Well, what we're here today to announce is how much Canada is focused on drawing in global investment to create the kinds of jobs and opportunities of the future. We know that there is an increasing need for critical minerals and for energy around the world over the coming decades, particularly trying to get off the reliance on countries like Russia and China that do not share our values, that do not share our high environmental standards, do not share our high labor standards. And there is a desire by consumers around the world, and indeed world-leading companies like Rio Tinto, to want to be on the side of the good guys in terms of protecting the planet, in terms of supporting workers, in terms of creating a better future. Canada has extraordinary resources. Canada has demonstrated leadership in fighting climate change and environmental sustainability. So drawing on investments like this one here today is exactly the kind of future that we've been building on for years and that we will continue to do. Obviously, with the Inflation Reduction Act in the United States, we're going to take further steps to make sure we continue to be competitive as a country that the world wants to come and invest in. There's more to do always. But what we're celebrating here today with Rio Tinto's $700 million investment here in Sorel, or what we celebrated with the significant investments in electric vehicles with Stellantis, or the supply chain investments we've been making at GM and at Umicore and others, is showing that Canada is there to be a solution not just for economic growth and prosperity for Canadians, but the kinds of products and solutions the world is going to need as we move towards a net zero economy. Canada will be the premium supplier of critical minerals and energy in a net zero world, and this announcement made here today is exactly another step along the path.
But are you also saying to giants like Rio Tinto that will be willing to pay 1/3 of your projects if you're looking into securing critical minerals?
Every step of the way, Canada has demonstrated an ability to invest in Canadians, to invest in good jobs, to invest in our future. We know that partnering on investments like Rio Tinto's investment that's going to cut the emissions in half and secure good jobs here for generations, at the same time as we develop supply chains that the world needs from a reliable partner like Canada, the money the federal government is investing here in Sorel is going to be returned not just to the community here, but to the Canadian economy many times over in the coming years, coming decades. That's what the job of preparing for the future is all about, and that's why we're so pleased to be here today.
Next question.
Hi there. I wanted to go back to the situation in Ukraine. President Zelensky has asked for an air shield specifically to block Russian missiles. Do you feel that that's something that could escalate the situation, or is it an option that's on the table?
Vladimir Putin has decided that since he's struggling on the battlefield, he's going to have to start bombing civilians. He's taking out Ukrainian infrastructure ahead of what is going to be a difficult winter for Ukrainians, as it will be for many of us, because of Putin's actions. Putin has decided that attacking civilians and civilian infrastructure is the right choice for him to make. He's wrong about that, as he has been wrong about so many things since the beginning of this war. And we will continue to stand with Ukraine and stand for the kind of values that Putin is attacking as he attacks Ukraine. That's why we will continue to be there to supply military aid, humanitarian aid, financial aid. We'll continue stepping up on sanctions. We'll continue with training. We'll continue standing with Ukraine, because it's not just about Ukraine. It's about all of us and the values and principles that underpin all of our free democratic societies.
Merci beaucoup, c'est ce qui met fin à la période des questions.
Merci tout le monde, et merci d'avoir une question au moins sur l'enjeu qu'on annonce aujourd'hui. Merci. Bravo, la gang.